Right. The podcast that uncovers the origin stories of some of the biggest names in sports, media, entrepreneurship, and entertainment. Nick Durst here, along with Joe Calabrese. And Joe, on our show, we're used to talking to wrestlers, or we're used to talking to entrepreneurs, or we're used to talking to sports players. But on this show, we got all that in one. We got a 24/7 champ with us, Andre the Giant, Memorial Battle Royal winner, someone who has an MBA. He's an entrepreneur. He played college football where he set multiple strength and speed records, played in the preseason for the NFL, and he's the host of TMZ Sports. Why don't you let everybody know who we have with us here today?
If you haven't heard about him, you need to get hyped right now. We're very, very, very happy to have him on. You might know him from WWE. He's Mojo Rawley, still uses Mojo, but his real name is Dean Muhtadi. Dean, what's up, Playboy?
Fellas, I'm hyped up, bro. That intro was something else. I'm going to be here with y'all for a while after that one.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. So we're going to start right out of the gate, right? We're going to start with you in high school where you interned with Morgan Stanley. Very, very interesting. Talk about that.
Yeah, actually, we'd have to go back to middle school for that one because I started interning with Morgan Stanley when I was 11. But I actually had an aunt that worked there, and she was a branch manager at the DC offices. And pretty much I would go in and see her and work with her. And it was like, I'm 11, so I'm like filing and copying and whatnot. So I literally went in there. She always loves telling this story, thinking I was going to start handling people's money and doing trades and stuff. Some punk kid. But it was, I had to walk small and, start small before I got going there. But one thing that was cool is I got to kind of sit in on some of the client meetings, some of the branch meetings, and just kind of be immersed into that world, that culture, and see what that experience was like, So when I was doing business classes later on in school, I understood what we were talking about. I had some firsthand knowledge there that I could actually apply what I was learning to. So just kind of that exposure was fantastic, and ended up staying with Morgan Stanley even through college, I want to say, for whenever I would come home, even if it was like a couple of weeks or a month, I'd pop in and get some hours in, make a little bit of money, but also kind of try and stay in that world a little bit to minimize that segue later and kind of go smoothly into that world, which I very nearly did twice, actually.
Yeah, academics obviously huge for you, and you did very well in school. When in high school did you realize that you could potentially get a scholarship for college, and when did you also realize that you had a chance to play college football?
That's a good question. I started playing football in 8th grade. You start playing and you wish, you hope, you dream that it's going to lead to, a college spot. At that point, I don't know what was more appealing, the thought of having a scholarship and not having to figure out how you're going to play for school, or actually be there and, being able to play in the big games on TV. When you're a little kid, it's maybe it's both. But, I started playing my first couple years, and I could see the progress that I was making in the sport. And, I became my school's, I was the only freshman starter we had, I know, at one point. My coaching staff's first ever, but I'm sure there was somebody prior to then. Coaches always say first ever, but that's just first they can remember. You can't always document those things. But I think probably around that point, I was like, man, if I'm doing this well this soon, I probably got a shot. Didn't matter that we only had 28 guys on our team and we were the worst in the district, maybe in the state at the time. That didn't matter. I just had a feeling that I might have had a shot here. And, luckily I was right. It didn't come easy. I played for 4 different head coaches in 4 years with 4 wins only. So we were pretty bad. Not a lot of college teams coming to check us out, but, fortunately found a way to get into one on a full academic scholarship, actually. But I had to go to a Division III school to start, which I ended up loving that school. It was hard to transfer out of later on.
So you went to Christopher Newport University. So what was the recruitment process for you by the University of Maryland to get you to come play for them?
There wasn't one really. CNU was an easy decision for me because I waited until like May or June to decide where I was going. Of course, it was a Division III school, so they're kind of used to waiting that long. But I held on, the hopes for one of the bigs to call me. They didn't, so I went to a D3 school. After 2 years there, loving the school, being heavily immersed into the program and just the leadership program, the honors program, all of these other things. I just wanted to play big time ball. It was the only reason I left. So Maryland didn't recruit me. I literally made a highlight tape and I mailed it to every single Division I school in the country. And then I got a phone book and I called every single coach on every single Division I team and left them a voicemail every single week until somebody called me back. And I knew coming in as a Division III guy, no D1 school was going to be interested. I knew for a fact no one was going to give me a scholarship. I could have been the best Division III player in the country. I don't think any D1, like major D1 school, would have given me a scholarship. But I just wanted to be the guy that whose name popped up in the meeting, that the D-line coach was like, my goodness, this freaking kid will not stop calling me. And then the O-line coach goes, dude, I know that name. And then the recruiting coordinator goes, bro, he called me too. Where every coach on the staff goes, this is the most annoying kid that I know on the planet, but I like that. Let's give him a shot if he wants to be here that bad. And I had it narrowed down to UVA, UConn, and Maryland. Took a visit to Maryland. That's all I needed to see. I mean, I'm from Virginia, but that DMV area, Maryland was always the hometown school, 30 minutes away, always wanted to be a Terp. Took that opportunity and ran with it.
Joe, I think Mojo here, he really worked the phones. He learned that at Morgan Stanley. So I think that it all paid dividends for him.
You got some early sales experience over there.
Seeing those phones all day, I got used to it.
So you got your MBA from the University of Maryland. At the time, what were your career aspirations and what did you think you were going to do after college?
I wanted to be prepared for anything. So I graduated with my bachelor's early so I could start my MBA while I was there, which was a whole other process. I think I became the youngest person to ever get accepted into the program then. I think it was that Morgan Stanley experience that allowed them to check the box on professional experience for me, because I think they used to want like 7 years experience or something before you come into an MBA. So I was prepared to go back to financial services if football didn't work out, but I really did want to give football a shot. You dream of playing in the NFL like through college and high school, and you want to see that come to fruition. So I wanted to give it my best shot and do everything I could. My senior year was good enough, I thought, to get me a shot. Obviously, it ended up being correct. Didn't get drafted. I ended up tearing my hamstring right before my pro day, where I was going to be able to show out and show off all those numbers that I had worked so hard to produce in the weight room and on the track and whatnot. But got that undrafted shot, a tryout opportunity actually with Green Bay. That, thank goodness, that worked out. But there was no way I was leaving that weekend without getting a contract. I was willing to do whatever it took. I killed myself that weekend, and thankfully it worked out. But I was an undrafted at a position where we had a first round pick and an excess of players for their first year, going from a 4-3 to a 3-4. Knew the writing was probably going to be on the wall there, and it was. I played awesome in the preseason. Didn't matter. I wasn't the guy that was invested in, so I got released. Spent the whole season at home thinking it was over. So I signed a contract with Merrill Lynch to start in financial services. I was supposed to start on a Monday with them. That Friday, the Arizona Cardinals called as soon as they were eliminated from the playoffs. And I signed with them and put Merrill Lynch on hold. And I went back to the NFL, and I thought I finally had this opportunity that I've been looking for my whole life, playing in an aggressive defensive scheme, which I had never been a part of. And just a great fit. knew I was going to make that team, and then blew out my calf in camp, and that was that. So signed that contract with Merrill Lynch again, thinking it was all over, because I was out for 18 months with that injury. Somehow came back, and then that's eventually when we went into WWE. So it was kind of crazy. I really didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to keep grinding, keep building up every aspect of my life, doing whatever I could to prepare myself for my future, and just, let fate decide the rest, I suppose.
So if you didn't get the calf injury, you would have made the roster. What would your playing time have looked like there?
It's hard to say. I knew for a fact they were going to keep me. I remember them telling my agent, actually, I was Darnell Dockett's training partner at the time, and he was our perennial Pro Bowler, 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. I think he was on like a 4-year, $48 million contract at the time. He's the best defensive tackle in the NFL. And, he was big brother Dockett. Like, he always looked out for me. We were training partners in the off season. And I remember them telling my agent, they're like, even if, like, Dean doesn't even have to be good. Like, he can just be like barely average, and we'll keep him just to keep training with Doc, So I was like, all right, well, we have that. That was cool. But then I went in and I had a really, really strong OTAs, and I think they were going to have me playing like goal line fullback, and they were factoring me into all these packages. And I was literally playing the best football of my life at my strongest, my fastest, my biggest. And, it was really going to be a good situation there. But again, I got hurt. So who knows if I would have been able to get a starting position, be a backup, or even if it would have been on practice squad. But I know I would have been there if I didn't have that injury. But things happen for a reason, baby.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Everything seems to work out in the right way. And sometimes it's just a matter of, where you are at the right time. And you were at the University of Maryland at the right time. You met Dan Gronkowski, you met the Gronkowski brothers. We had a few of them on our show already. And they talked about the great friendship you guys had together. And they kind of said maybe they had some influence in you heading towards the wrestling career. Is that accurate?
That is absolutely accurate, and I'll give them all the credit in the world for it. Being a wrestler was the first thing I ever wanted to do when I was a kid, watching every single week. I went into football because you can't sign up for pro wrestling when you're in grade school, so you gotta do something else for a while, and then football took off, so I went that route. But I always wanted to be a wrestler. They knew that. What I didn't know is that their dad was college roommates with Mike Rotunda, the IRS man from WWE, who was a coach and producer at the time. So we were sitting around watching wrestling one day, and Raw or SmackDown, I can't remember which, but we were watching. I remember one of the brothers being like, dude, why are you not a wrestler? Like, screw football, you should be a wrestler. It's like, man, I would love to be a wrestler. Where the hell do I sign up for that? Like, it's not like football. There's a track. You go high school. If you're good, you go to college. If you're good, you go to the end. I don't know a thing about how to get into this business. I'm not going to go start in the indie routes. I don't, that's going to take 10 years. I had a whole football career under my belt. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. Mr. Gronk steps in. He's like, dude, I'll make a call. So he calls Mike. He sends him all my information, my stuff, some of the more entertaining videos I had at the time. And that was that. They took us backstage at a live event in Buffalo. We all went and sat front row. I think the main event was Cena and Kane at a no DQ match. I saw Dolph Ziggler have a wildly entertaining match that day. I met Ryback, who, looking at this guy, I was like, this is one of the biggest people I've ever seen. He looks way different than a football player, bro. This guy's ridiculous. But I saw these people and got to meet them, and everyone was so friendly. And I was like, man, this is awesome. This is a brotherhood too. I love this environment. Obviously, it's what I want to do professionally. And that was that, man. They signed me on the spot and brought me into FCW and got me going. But yeah, that all came from that initial Mr. Gronkowski introduction.
Interesting. What a story. And you continue to be you're basically another Gronkowski brother, that's for sure. And we'd always see you, you and Flo Rida at all these events, hanging out and everything. But what was more wild, the Gronk cruise or the Gronk beaches?
Oh, the Gronk cruise. If anybody tells you different, they are lying to you. The evidence in this is that there was only one Gronk cruise. There's been 3 Gronk beaches. There was one Gronk cruise, and they told us afterwards, we will never do one of these ever again in our lives. They're like, we've had all the craziest rock bands in history do these same cruises, and none of them have been as ridiculous as you guys. That cruise is of legend. I can't even talk about the things that have happened on that cruise, but it was ridiculous. I do know at one point, my brother and another one of our buddies stumbled into, maybe on purpose, like the employee lounge.
Oh boy.
Area. I think they were looking for something to eat like late. And there was mug shots of me and Rob on the walls that said, do not give these guys alcohol. Don't give them food. Don't give them anything. Stay away from them. Like, they almost threw us in the brig at one time. I think a couple of our attorneys, our buddy Troy being one of them, had to cite something to keep us out of there because we were going.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, what
a story. Oh, well, that kind of makes sense. So who would you say is the better dancer, you or Gordie?
Oh, well, it's me. No, you didn't even have to finish your sentence. Me or anybody. Mojo is undefeated in dance contests. I've never lost anytime, any place. It's never happened. We used to go out searching for competition, and we just couldn't find it. I don't even know if I'm willing to give Gord best dance moves in the Gronkowski family, actually.
All right.
Who would you say is the best dancer?
Normally, I would say Rob is the best dancer, but I will say whenever you actually get Chris Gronkowski going, which is not often, he's usually the most quiet one of the 5. He is the craziest one of them by an absolute mile, and I don't think anybody, including them, would fight that. He is a wild man. Yeah, I think Chris will take the cake. But if not, it's Rob.
Yeah, Gordie, we asked him, he said it was definitely him, but I'm going to take your word for it as an outsider view. But how was the dancing at your wedding?
Gord is the most consistent partier out of anyone I've ever met in my entire life. I can tell you that. That guy doesn't stop. It's always a party with him. He's always happy and upbeat and having fun. He'll dance longer than any of his bros for sure. He'll keep going for days on end. But yeah, that's how I break that down. The wedding, though, the wedding was a dream come true. Obviously, I'm a little biased since it was my wedding. But we broke it down at the wedding. It was pretty crazy. It was not I always thought I was going to have like this massive wedding that was just this full-on party. When you marry somebody, sometimes they have a say in how their wedding goes as well. So me and Grace tried to meet in the middle on this one. We got married in Florence, Italy, and we did the whole thing on like 7 weeks notice. We had this whole plan to do this big New England wedding, but we just could not figure it out with the venue. They were trying to make us have this cookie cutter, vanilla, boring ass wedding. And I was like, absolutely not. And we were able to do a wedding at a 5-star L hotel, which is a difference than a 5-star L or 5-star hotel, apparently, 5-star luxury. We did a week there at this mega place for the same price as 4 hours at this venue we were going to do at Connecticut. That the deciding factor was that the place in Connecticut wouldn't allow us to extend the dance floor. That was the final straw that broke the camel's back, where I was like, screw this, contract's out the window, forget it, we're going somewhere else. And we went to Italy, and a bunch of our friends flew out on essentially no notice and canceled plans, and that dance floor was rocking. I think that night the MVP of the dance floor might have been the former Sasha Banks, the current Mercedes Monet. She went absolutely ham. It was a sight to see for sure.
Nick, and here I thought partying down the Jersey Shore was something, right?
It's different. It's a different thing.
I think you got to get Mojo to DJs with you one day.
Absolutely. Mojo, my friends and I, we're experienced down the shore over here, so we know the best places to go. If you're ever in Jersey, let us know.
Let's do it, buddy.
I think Joe was with Enzo at Enzo Amore at DJs.
Enzo Amore showed up once on a Sunday fun day, and we were there, and I was with my friends and my cousin's friends, and Enzo was on stage, and he did a little bit, and one of my cousin's friends actually sold the Stone Cold Stunner on the DJ stage from him.
Say, hell yeah! Hell yeah!
I almost brought up Enzo on my own, not only because you said Jersey, but I've been telling Enzo he needs to start DJing on the side for years. Yeah. I think him with the microphone and DJing, he's big into music, of course. That would be a really good situation. And, you know, with his following and whatnot, yeah, he would kill it as a DJ.
Absolutely. So you talked about Rob before. So you were very fortunate. You got to do a couple of Wrestlemania angles with Rob. You got to spend time as 24/7 champion, arguably at WrestleMania 33, the most memorable moment in the history of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. You guys got to start the pre-show with that, and that was great. And during a really low time with the COVID stuff, Rob came in for a little while, and you were kind of partnering him with that. So what was it like doing those things with him, but in general, just, again, being friends with them?
I mean, those guys are brothers to me. We all came up together for years. If any one of us had a day off, we had a group chat. We just throw it out there. I got a day off. Where am I flying to? And that's how every trip went. Like we all vacationed together, went partying together for years all over the country. Was an incredible time. Now, very few of the team are still partying like that. Gordie maybe being the only full-time partier now that all of the rest of us are married and most of them have kids now. But that's just been incredible. Everyone's had each other's backs and supported each other, and everything that they've done professionally, personally, all been there for each other through the years. Man, I love those guys, honestly. As far as having them in WWE, that was really cool too, being able to kind of bring that full circle. Because again, Mr. Gronk's the one that made that intro for me in the first place. So being able to kind of work those guys into WWE and what we were doing at the time was awesome. And they come to the shows for years. They came to the shows when we were back at FCW in Tampa, when you could literally count 5 people in the entire arena. 5 people, and 3 of them are the Gronkowski brothers. Pro Bowl tight end sitting there in this dungy-ass, like garage-looking kind of building, just to support and see us do our thing because they love watching wrestling. We pretend to beat each other up. That's how I got ready for WWE, was being at the clubs and bashing each other and beating each other up and eating chops to toughen me up before I reported. That's how we got ready for it. But it's cool to take it all the way to WrestleMania and having Rob be a part of the show. I remember we actually petitioned to move it to the pre-show, to have it off of the main card, for the reason being that the pre-show was streamed was on cable. It wasn't on pay-per-view. So we knew it was
on USA. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So way more eyes, and that's what you want, especially if you're going to have Rob in the mix, is you want all the ESPNs and all these other sports followings to see Rob that wouldn't have if it would have been on pay-per-view. So moving it to the pre-show was fantastic for us. I know a lot of guys would prefer to be on the main card than the pre-show, but there's one thing you learn in wrestling, it's how to eat humble pie. That is for damn sure. But yeah, having him a part of that at the SmackDowns, coming back for WrestleMania with the 24/7 title. We've really always wanted to do a match together. that got put on hold when Rob went back to the Bucks. But when he came to WWE that year, that was the plan, was for us to do a tag match together and then split up and have a solo match. And we had this really cool angle for it too. But when Tom Brady and Drew Rosenhaus come calling and they got a $10 million contract sitting on the table, you take that.
Absolutely. Mojo, what was your favorite Super Bowl you got to attend?
Oh man. I missed a couple of the good ones, I remember, which sucked. I missed the 28-3 comeback, and I missed the Seattle game where they scored on the last play of the game, which, oh man, that was brutal not being there for those. But I had my own job. I had to attend. I've been to a few of them now. Hard to say, man. Probably I remember them by city. Minneapolis might have been no, because they lost that game. Actually, that was when they lost to the Eagles, so that sucked. Atlanta, maybe Atlanta. I don't know. I mean, I've only played in so many, but I believe when they were in Atlanta, not playing Atlanta, I don't even remember who they were playing. But just that whole week and seeing there and being able to see him do his thing prior to it was incredible. The games are so secondary to the experiences at this point. Like, he's got what, 4 rings at this point? You got to make them special after that when you have that many, I suppose.
Yeah, you guys would have been a great tag team in WWE. You probably would have been the second greatest tag team of all time behind you and Matt Cardona, the Hype Bros. Now,
that's my worst.
You might be stepping back in the ring real soon. Could we potentially see a Hype Bros reunion, or maybe you versus Matt at somewhere? You could be popping up to take him out with a steel chair or something.
You better believe that if we're bringing this thing back, it's not to team with each other. We did that dance. We both have very publicly stated, look, we were given that job. We tried to do the best we could with that job. When it comes to wrestling, Matt and I see everything just totally opposite, which made for some fun at one point. I'm sure we could have done a lot more with that we didn't actually get to present to the fans. But yeah, if we wrestle again, it will absolutely be against each other. Matt's done some incredible things in his career. Honestly, I think he's hotter now than he ever has been. And it's a testament to what he's been willing to do and, being able to control his own schedule and, how hard he's been working. I think this is the best Matt Cardona there's ever been. I think Matt Cardona would kick the crap out of Zack Ryder. I think the attitude that he has now and everything he's doing, that would have been great with the Hype Bros. We could have really done, something cool with that. Being able to tap into this whole mean streak and different side. Obviously, a lot of the things he's doing now, he couldn't have done then, but maybe that's what makes it so good too.
All right, lots to be seen here moving forward for sure. For you, Mojo, what was it like to see yourself in a video game? I mean, first you had the NCAA game where they're using your name, image, and likeness without your permission, but then you're in WWE 2K and it's you. So what was that experience like for you?
I mean, that had to be one of the coolest parts about the job. I mean, I hate to say, you kind of get used to it as it goes on, and it's less fun, and you want to make sure they have all of your moves right and got all your stuff in. But the first one, man, that to be a video game character that your kids can play as you later, your buddies, fans, that was awesome. I think even one year I got to be in the game wearing Zubas, which was so cool because I only wore Zubas on TV for a month or two, I think. But that was awesome. I mean, that's one of the perks of the job. It's one of the things that makes being a pro wrestler better than being a pro athlete of any other sport. I mean, you could be Tom Brady. Being a wrestler in a WWE or AEW game is so much cooler than being Tom Brady in an NFL game. You got your whole personality unlocked. It's you on an individualized platform. It's so much better. So that was cool. I mean, that's way cooler than being in the magazines and the books and the trading cards. I mean, the video game was where it was at.
Mojo, who is a wrestler out there right now who doesn't get enough credit for their tremendous skill set and work ethic? Somebody who's underappreciated a little bit.
Oh man.
I know there's a bunch to choose from.
It's really hard to dig that out. For years, I've said I always thought that Samoa Joe was one of the most underrated. I love his work. He is one of the best mic guys, I would say, in the history of the game. I mean, you have like some characters, some outlandish, characters that have been incredible mic workers. But as far as like being a real person delivering quality promos that can almost be seen as poetic, I mean, I've always thought that he was one of those guys and someone that I would have loved to have worked with, against, and in any way. I think we had one like a week or two in NXT super quick when I was getting called up. It was not much we could get to sink our teeth into, but I remember that one match, liking that one match more than just about any match in my entire career. Two guys having a physical match, going out there. I felt like there was so much more we could have done there if given a program. But dude, the way I've seen him just eviscerate people on the mic, my goodness, he's always been one of those guys. But yeah, dude, I guess since we've already talked about it, we'll just go with him.
Yeah, works. All right, Mojo, last wrestling question here, we promise. You, of course, could do some serious damage at a buffet. What other wrestlers would you say could keep up with you eating-wise? And Ryback, is he really that prolific of a eater, as we heard?
Okay, so I've never gone out to dinner or eaten a meal with Ryback, so I can't talk about him. But I know for me, it's got to be Braun Strowman. I mean, that's the guy. I mean, I don't know if he can still throw down like he used to, because he has leaned out an incredible amount, especially here in his second run. But he was a travel buddy of mine. Me, him, and EC3 used to ride together, for years on the road. We've gone to some buffets, some other places, and done eating competitions. Why would I try to keep up eating with that guy? Like, that's a crap day for me. I mean, Braun, I've done eating competitions with him where he literally left and threw up in the parking lot because he was that determined to not lose. Like, doesn't matter who was there, he was winning, didn't care what it took. I've seen him take down some stuff. I'm curious to see where he is now, but again, it's him. It's definitely him.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And what a trio for that car ride. You should have did the car show that they had on WWE Network. But EC3, another guy who was severely underrated, who is tremendous talent for sure.
Dude, first of all, there should have been a show, because the reason we all rode together, we all hit the gym every day. We trained extremely hard, but we would do that early. Every day was the same. We wake up, empty stomach cardio, go to breakfast, hit the gym, really push each other and train as hard as we could, even though we all had different training styles. We didn't really lift together. We all did our own thing, but shouting across the gym at each other, we pushed each other. But we made time to do fun things on the road. Like, we would go karting, laser tag. I think we went spelunking at one point. Like, anything we could find to do in these cities, we would do it. We tried to enjoy the road. We tried to live the lifestyle. We went out partying together in these cities if we found somewhere that was fun and it didn't, interfere with our work. Like, nobody else was doing that stuff. A lot of people just sit in the hotel room all day. It's like, guys, this might be the only time, we're in the Dakotas, or somewhere, Alaska. Like, we got to go exploring. It's a must. And these were the guys to do it. So awesome guys. And yeah, to your point, EC3, incredibly underrated talent, just such a hard worker. The things that he's been doing with Control Your Narrative, talking about it from a business perspective, the amount of hours that he puts in, and the scripts and the creative that he comes with, and the editing and creating this just whole entity and putting on, he's a booker and a promoter as well. Like, man, I don't know how that guy's like can even function with all the stuff he's been doing, and I've been able to see some of it. That guy has no off switch. He kills himself every single day. Definitely has earned anything he's gotten, for sure.
Making the most of opportunities just like you. How did the opportunity for TMZ Sports present itself, and how did you capitalize on that?
Well, funny you asked that, because I actually got to hop off here to film TMZ here in just a couple of minutes. But TMZ was awesome. I kind of became one of their resident WWE guys for a while. They'd have me on the show, every 3 to 6 months or something, to talk about wrestling or football or, who knows what else in between. And I always loved working with those guys and chatting with them. And literally the second I got out of WWE, they were the first interview I did. They were my first call, and they offered me that job. They actually told me that one of the reasons they had me on over the years was to scout me out, to kind of keep that relationship alive, because they knew they wanted to offer me the job as soon as I got out of wrestling. So that meant a lot to me, and that has been one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. I don't even feel like I work with them, but it's awesome talking sports lifestyle, being able to talk about football again, but all sports. My co-host Babcock is a wizard. That guy's awesome. And it's just a family feel over there, man. I love those guys and everything they do. I'll be with them for a long time.
Very enjoyable to watch you there. And it's got to be enjoyable for you to have your own business now. We're coming full circle back from the Merrill Lynch days. You got the MBA, Paragon Talent Management. How did you come up with the idea to launch that? And how has it been, the last 2-3 years here with all your great clients who are very notable in the industry?
That's been great, man. It took off in a hurry. Started it because there was no real, representation, especially for marketing services in wrestling. So few people had agents or managers. Nobody was really doing anything outside of the wrestling bubble. And with the talent and skill that the wrestlers have, I knew that had to change. So started this company with a best friend of mine, Steve K. Didn't even have to pitch him this idea for 10 seconds before he was on board, and it took off. And now, we've been around for 2 years. We've done deals for, over 150 wrestlers. We've done 8 figures in business. Immediately it just took off and exploded. And it's been awesome. It's been really, good to not only make some buddies some money, but help find them new lives after WWE, or after wrestling, and new walks of life. And it's been awesome, man. It's just been a testament to the skill level in the business.
Yeah, great stuff. Great roster of talent. Encourage everybody to go check that out and hit up the company if you want to make some deals and book some people for some shows. That's what Mojo is here to do with his company. Last question, and we'll let you out of here. What would you say in your life or your career is your I'm right moment? What I mean by that is a time or place where you wanted to pursue something, you asked somebody for advice. They're like, Dean, don't do that. That's an awful idea. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. And ultimately, you will see why it is that I'm right.
I mean, every single one of my biggest decisions was like that. Trying to continue to go back to the NFL after being cut from Green Bay and injuries and, all of these things. The surefire money was to go into financial services. Those contracts were actually way bigger than the ones that I initially had for football, but I declined them because that's what I wanted to do. And then, essentially making the decision to go with wrestling over financial services, or going back to the NFL, where I think with the new rookie minimum, if I would have went back to football, my salary would have been like, somewhere in the 400,000s at the time. Whereas I turned that down to take $39,000 a year to start with, WWE. That didn't make any sense. And, my situation at Merrill Lynch would have even have been better than the NFL. So financially, but, kind of bet on myself and really did everything I could to make that successful. And it worked out for me in the end. But, people can advise you only so much. It's up to you. You should listen to your haters. You should hear them out and listen to their perspectives and try to learn from them and, see why they're trying to say that. I had family members that I trust very much that told me not to do what I did, but that was always in my back pocket, keeping that there, like looking for those opportunities where, if this gets to the point where it's not making sense anymore, if I'm this 30-year-old guy who's, still in the minor leagues trying to make it and I haven't generated anything and the writing's on the wall, well, how long are you going to keep pushing? I don't want to be that guy that's 40 and has 6 figures in college debt and, is now starting over with the 21-year-olds because I rode this dream for too long. Like you should hear that out. You should be a dreamer, but be a realist as well. And just, listen to what your haters are trying to say, believe in yourself and follow your opinions and your lead, but see what they're saying, see if there's any, if there's any weight to what they're doing, and always let that, help weigh in on your decisions.
Bet on yourself. Good advice. Dean, when we booked you, we were hyped during this interview. Nick and I were hyped. And as soon as this is over and we move on, we're going to stay hyped. But
there it is, buddy.
Mojo, we had a great time hanging with you. Thank you for doing this with us. We really appreciate it. What we do here is we give our guests the last words. So if there's anything else you would like to share, personally promote for yourself, your company, please, by all means, go ahead and do so. Thank you again for doing this with us.
Simple, fellas. Stay hyped. That's what it's about. That's all it is.
All right, thank you very much. That's going to do it for this episode of You Know I'm Right. For our very special guest, Mojo, my co-host, Joe. I'm Nick, and this has been You Know I'm Right.